Hello everyone. So today what I'm going to show you how you can configure ESLint and Prettier in your Visual Studio Code for your JavaScript development. Before I go into further details, I would like to let you know that I have already written a blog which will tell you how you can configure your Visual Studio Code for the JavaScript development. So if you haven't gone through my blog, I'll highly recommend that you will go through my blog to find out that information. This is my blog post. So if you go to my blog, there is a post which I have written how to configure your Visual Studio Code for the JavaScript development. So I highly recommend that you go through this post and make sure that your VS Code is configured for further JavaScript development. In the description of this video, I am going to put a link of this post. So with that, what we are going to discuss today, let's say you have already configured your VS Studio Code for JavaScript development. So you want to take it a little further. We want to configure ESLint and Prettier on the same VS Studio Code, Visual Studio Code. Before we go into further details, I would like to give you a quick description of what this ESLint and Prettier, right? So what is this ESLint? So ESLint, when we write a JavaScript, right, or any programming language, we need to follow a clear coding convention, right? Without that, things can look ugly and it can becoming very difficult to maintain, debug, and all the problem will start coming when you are not following the proper coding convention. So ESLint is basically a linting tool which will make sure that the coding convention is followed, or it will enforce you to follow the coding convention every time you write a JavaScript code. So highly recommended tool within the JavaScript development. Today we are going to configure ESLint in our VS Code. And what is this Prettier? Prettier is basically a code formatter, and it's highly recommended when it comes to making the code formatted consistently for you and your team. And this Prettier supports many language out of the box, and basically you can just search for Google Prettier and it will give you all the information. So with that, with this brief introduction, let's start configuring ESLint and Prettier in the Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to put this video in the Mac environment, but it's almost the same process that you need to follow if you are using the Windows platform. So in the Mac, first what I'll do, I'll open a terminal. So that's my terminal. With my terminal, let me go to the desktop and let me create a folder called JavaScript configuration. Okay, it looks like the file is already there. Let me put JavaScript config. Okay, now let me go to JavaScript config. Once we are inside this folder, we can write this command code followed by a dot. What it will do, it will open your Visual Studio Code in this folder. So the moment we did that, let's see, this is the Visual Studio Code. It opened on this platform, on this particular folder, right? If you see here, on this section there is no file. It's basically an empty folder. So we need to perform all our activity within this JavaScript program. We basically have two options. Either we can run our commands in the terminal window, or we can run the commands within the Visual Studio Code. I would, it's up to your choice, but in this video what I'm going to do, I'm going to run the commands from this within this VS Code. For that, I have to open a terminal, and that I can do in going into the this section and new terminal. What it will do, it will open this section. Let me make this screen a little bigger. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do, we need to initiate npm. the the process that we can the way we can the command that will do is basically npm init minus y. The moment we do that, what it will do, it will initiate the npm, and you see here there is a new package.json was created. So if I open the package.xml, it's basically having all this information. Let me quickly change something here. Let me put my name here, and let's, for the time being, let's not make any further changes, and let's save that. Okay, very good. Clear the terminal. Okay. With that, what I am going to do, I am going to install in ESLint and Prettier as a dev dependencies. So every time you need to configure something, you need to add that as a dev dependencies. So the command for that is like npm I is for install, minus d is for dev dependencies, and then I'm going to write ESLint and Prettier. You can write you can install ESLint first and then go for the Prettier. Then you need to first execute this command and then another command where npm I minus d and then Prettier. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to add in ESLint and Prettier in the same command, and it is going to install ESLint and Prettier as a dev dependencies together. So let me go ahead and hit enter. It's fetching it's doing all the stuff like extracting item and doing the metadata, doing the installation, right? So it's done. You can see here my package.xml is updated with two dev dependencies, ESLint and Prettier. So far so good. So we have installed our ESLint and Prettier. And by the way, like whatever steps I am performing in this video, I'm going to write the same steps in my blog post, and the link of the blog post will also be shared in the description of this video. So you have two options: you can go through the video, as well as you can refer my blog post with step-by-step process. Once this is done, what we need to do, we need to install two more dev dependencies. One is ESLint plugin Prettier, which is basically a kind of a plugin between ESLint and the Prettier, and ESLint config Prettier, which is basically creating a config file, ESLint config file for Prettier. So so do that. Let me open Google and find the command first. So what I have to do first, I have to install the plugin, which is basically the ESLint plugin Prettier. So ESLint plugin Prettier, and the command is very easy. This is the one that we need to install, the first one. Install save dependencies ESLint plugin Prettier. So let's copy that, and then this minus minus save dependencies you can write, or minus d, it's the same. So let me go ahead and enter. What is going to do, it's install the ESLint plugin Prettier. So that's done. Now we need to install our second dependencies, which is basically a ESLint config Prettier. Yep, this is the one. Okay, and the command for that is this one. So let's go ahead and install that. Perfect. So both the commands ran successfully, and as you can see, my package.xml is updated with four dependencies: ESLint Prettier, ESLint config Prettier, and ESLint plugin Prettier. So far so good. So now what we need to do, we need to create a configuration file for ESLint. You can create manually a configuration file, but I would say let's create a configuration file with ESLint only. So to do that, we need to first install ESLint globally to our environment, right? So the command for that is like sudo. Why sudo? Because sudo is kind of a root kind of permission or admin permission. Every time you are installing something globally, you need to put sudo in Mac. So I'm going to put this. Minus G is for global, and what I'm going to install is ESLint. So once I do that, it will ask for my password, which I'm typing, and you can't see because it's a secure encrypted thing. And it installed the ESLint globally. This minus G will make sure that whatever you put under after minus G is installed globally. Okay, so ESLint is installed. Now what we are going to do, we are going to create a configuration file. To do that, we need to write this command ESLint minus minus init. And let me make this window a little bigger, because this time it is going to, what is going to do, it is going to ask me a few questions, and based on that it is going to create a configuration file for ESLint. So enter. Oops, sorry, it should be init. So ESLint minus minus init. Yep. What is going to do, what, how would you like to use ESLint? So for this demo, I want to use ESLint for syntax and find problem, to check syntax and find problem. So enter uh, JavaScript module, or let's make it none of this, because it doesn't matter. We are going to anyway update our configuration file. No, browser. Okay, so it's going this question is very important. What is going to ask, what is going to do is going to create a ESLint configuration file, and it is asking in which format you want your file to be created. Is it in JavaScript, YAML, or JSON? So personally I prefer JSON, but you can choose any of this, and then you need to update accordingly, right? So for this demo, let's choose JSON. And you see here there is a new file got created, which is ESLint .ESLint.rc .json. So let's open that and let's see what is there inside that file, and also let's clear the window. So basically what it told, there is environment, which is basically against which environment the ESLint will run. There are some extents, parse option, and rules. So what we need to do, we need to update this configuration file. To do that, what we need to do, we need to find the ESLint configuration. So you can find all your ESLint configuration on this file on here. 1 minute. So if I open my Google again, I want to show you how you can fetch all your ESLint configuration, which is ESLint config. Yep. And in our first one was env. So if I search with env, so it will tell these are the defined environments. So we have browser, we have ES2020. So I recommend you put node, and again everything is documented in my blog post, and also at the end of the video I'm going to share my GitHub link where all this configuration is committed, so you can refer that as well. So I'm going to put two more statement here, node and the ESLink. Yeah, node and ES6. That's good. That's good. And then we need to configure, we need to put, you remember, we put this ESLint plugin Prettier in my package.xml. We put this ESLint plugin Prettier. So there are few things that we need to put as part of in the JSON file. So again, let's go back here and search for ESLint plugin Prettier, right? Yep, ESLint plugin Prettier. What was there in the extents? We have ESLint recommended, so we are not going to change that. But what this ESLint plugin Prettier is telling, that once you have that, you should have this thing in your this file. So we already have this file here, right? So what is telling in your plugin section you should have a Prettier. Let's see whether we have that. We don't have that, so let's copy this entire part and put it here. I think that looks good. We don't need this portion, so let's delete that. Also we don't need ES2020, so let's delete that. So ESLint is here, ESLint is here, ESLint recommended. So far so good. mm, yep. Another thing that we need to do, we need to add this plugin Prettier recommended in our extend section. So in our extends we already have the ESLint recommended, so we need to add one more. So let's make it an array. Close array. So far so good. So that's what we need. So that's what we need. uh, yep. I think it looks very good. Okay, so now let's go back to our package.json file. So what I've done, I've installed, I have made sure, like, browser, node and ES6 is installed under the environment, which is basically against which environment you are going to run your JavaScript or the node application. That's what your JavaScript file, and all the configuration that we need to write to make sure that Prettier will run. So that's what I have mentioned in this configuration file. With that, let me go back to my package.json. This time what I am going to do, I am going to write few more scripts. Scripts are basically, these are the commands which will run, and against that command there are particular node command which will execute, right? So the first script which I'm going to write is basically, or first command which I'm going to write is basically start, which will at the back end execute the node command. And the second one which I'm going to write is lint, which is basically going to execute sorry, double quotes, ESLint here. I think that's the only thing I am going to write, nothing else. So let's save that. And now I think most of my configuration is done. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create some JavaScript file. So I highly recommend, before you start creating your JavaScript file, create a folder. And so I'm going to create a folder called source, and make sure like all your JavaScript file are under this source folder. So under the source, I'm going to create a JavaScript file called hello world.js. Okay, allow. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to write a very simple statement, console.log. uh, Pay attention on this part. I'm going to write hello world with single quotes, right? I haven't saved that file, but the moment I save that file, what is going to do, it's going to replace all my single quotes with the double quotes, and also put a semicolon at the end of this one, right? So this is something that is done automatically, making sure that my JavaScript is following the coding convention and all this thing, right? uh, so let's say I have written this program, and now what I am going to do, I am going to run the ESLint to make sure that all my programs and everything is following the best practices. To do that, what I am going to do, you remember, like, we have created this script called lint. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to run a command npm run and run lint src. I'll come to this, double twice, dash dash and dash dash, twice, double dash. So I'll explain that, but let me first execute this command. uh, it looks like it failed, and why it failed is basically I need to put a space here. Okay, so far so good. Looks like our ESLint executed against the folders src, and it ran successfully. If there is nothing shown in the output, it means everything looks good. So before we go into little further, what is this command doing? So npm run lint is basically this script. So what is telling npm that npm run ESLint. And why the double dash, why the twice double dash? The first double dash, if I put src like this, npm run lint dash dash source, then what it will do basically, it will consider that source is a parameter to the npm command. But that's not what we want. We want to pass source to the parameter to this ESLint command. So the first dash, that if we put anything after first dash, that will be considered as a parameter to the npm command. But our requirement is to pass source as a parameter to the ESLint command. So that to do that, we need to pass second double dash, and that will make sure that src is passed as a parameter to this ESLint command, not to this npm command, right? So yep, everything looks good. So now let's say we will make sure that our code is not following the best practices. So here, and yep, you see here, like, it already started complaining that your code is not following the best practices. If you hover over there, it's telling like, you need to replace a single quote with a double quotes and a semicolon, because that's the complaint that ESLint is giving. But I want to, still save this file. So in VS Code, if you put command P, it will open up this section, and where you can write, file save without formatting. You see the first option. So let me click on that. What is going to do? It's going to save the file, and save the file with the error. So now with the error, this time if I run the same command again, what is going to tell me that okay, you have a file called hello-world.js under your src folder, and that file is not following the best practices. Why it's not following the best practices? Because this file is having a hello world statement, which is having single quotes, and there is no semicolon. And it also telling like, what you need to basically do. You need to replace your single quotes with the double quotes and with a semicolon. So that's good. Like, it means like our ESLint is running successfully, and it is also capturing all the problems, right? So now the good part is like, it is also telling you an option that you can use this minus minus fix command to fix the problem automatically. So what I'm going to do, I am going to do exactly what it is telling, npm run lint, and then minus minus fix, and then src. So what I'm telling, that ESLint run against this src folder, and if you find any problem, then fix that problem as well. So now if I execute this command, what it's going to do is it fixed the problem. You see here, it fixed the problem. It created like, it replaced the single quotes with the double quotes, and also with the semicolon. Now the beauty of this command is like, let's say in the real world, we'll be not dealing with a one single JavaScript file. We'll be probably dealing with 10, 50, 100, I don't know, many JavaScript file, right? And it doesn't make sense that we'll go to the individual file and run this ESLint command, capture the error, and solve, right? We want some kind of quick way to capture all the errors, all the errors in the files under this src folder, and at the same time fix all together, right? So to do that, let me create one more file under src called hello canada.js, and here I'm going to write console.log hello from Canada. So this is also a problem, and I'm going to save the file with this problem. And I'm also hello world, I'm also making sure like, this is also not following the best practices, or not the coding standard. So now I have two files under the src, both are not correct. Let's say I'll create one more, hello india.js, and this time this one will follow the best practice. or the coding convention. So now I have three files: hello Canada, hello India, and hello world, right? So now, and out of these three, two are not having the right coding convention and one is absolutely correct. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run my old previous command again, and this time what it is telling, you have two files, hello Canada and hello world, which are not following the best practices or not the coding convention, but hello India is okay, so that's why there is no mention of hello India, right? So the beauty of this command is, like, you ran one command and that basically scan all the files under the src folder and reported the problems. Now this is cool, but you need to solve all the problems with one shot. It's very easy, exactly the same comment with a minus minus fix, with a minus minus six, with a minus minus fix. So execute that and it's going to solve all the problems. So this time if I go to hello world, my hello world is correctly syntaxed and also my hello Canada is the same. So that's the beauty of this ESLint and ESLint command. I think it's really important that you configure this ESLint and Prettier in your VS Studio Code, VS Code, Visual Studio Code. So I have already configured my VS Code and put all my coding, all my configuration in my GitHub repository, which you can find from here. I'm going to put the link of this GitHub in my blog post as well as in the description of this video. So it's having all the configuration that you need. So basically that's all. uh, so have a look, go through this video, and please let me know if you have any feedback or any comments. Your comments are really appreciated. So in my next video, what I'm going to do, I'm going to extend this VS Code configuration, and I'm going to add few more steps to make sure you are following the best practices and the base coding standard when you are doing the JavaScript. So till then, goodbye, have a nice day and enjoy learning JavaScript. Thank you.